So I wanted to walk you through a photo shoot that I did with Hanna. I think it was the beginning of February, something like that. And this photo shoot was done on the ice here in Vaasa. I've been wanting to do a photo shoot like this for a couple of years now, but the ice hasn't been strong enough, so that's a problem. Or if the ice was strong enough, then I just didn't have the time to do it. This year the weather has been really cold, or was pretty cold at the beginning of the year, so the ice was strong and I finally had the chance to do this photo shoot. And specifically for this photo shoot I wanted to do it in monochrome, which is what I did. And I had the idea that I wanted to convey what winter felt like to me. In my mind, winter is a long and dark part of the year because here in Finland it goes on for a long time. Winter is one of the most longest seasons that we have here. And I believe that monochrome is something that conveys the meaning of or the feeling of winter for me personally better than color does. There's not much color anyway, especially during that when we did the shoot. So I felt that monochrome it was the best option to capture the feeling that I was going for. The feeling of solitude, the feeling of looking inwards to yourself, and the feeling of loneliness, and at the same time also the feeling and the dream of a coming spring. I'm not going to deny that there's no color. In winter there are colors during winter as well. It was a great day when we did this photo shoot, and I also instructed Hanna to take black clothing, and she has dark hair, which was perfect for this photo shoot. What I said about monochrome photography, it is somewhat in line with what Elliot Erwitt said about monochrome photography being more interpretive of the emotional side of the image. And since we're stripping away the color, which can be distracting at points, while I do agree with him on that, but I also, my personal opinion is that color can also convey emotion. But for this specific photo shoot, I do feel that monochrome was the right choice because I wanted to strip away the colors. And to me, monochrome is more of a dreamlike state, even. I could describe it as like that, and I felt that it fit the bill on this photo shoot better than color does. There are colors in winter here in Finland as well, but for this specific photo shoot, since it was also a gray day, I just wanted to do it in monochrome. But since I've got that monologue out of the way, let's continue on with the photos. So let's begin with going through the images. I have 4 in total, so this will not be a long video, but I still wanted to take 4 different kinds of photos and talk a little bit about my mindset behind these photos. This one here, taken with a slower shutter speed. This was one of the first images we took during the shoot, and it was one of those in sense to break the ice, since this was our first time doing a photo shoot together, but it was also to warm up, since as I mentioned earlier, it was a really cold day and it was windy and we were literally on the ice of the ocean. So we both moved around, and when Hanna was moving, I captured this shot with a slower shutter speed to capture the motion while she was moving. If I had used color for this image, it would have made the image more playful, I would say, but the black and white or monochrome makes it feel more of a dream. And the motion blur transforms the arms to wings, and they look like wings to me in a sense, and the negative space around her creates a sense of loneliness, and in combination it also feels as you are in a dream where time has frozen. And then we have this image right here, which is probably one of my favorites from this photo shoot. This is a double exposure. Personal note on this one, I could have lined the horizon on both of the images at the same position. Note to self, I will do that in future ones when I'm trying to do this thing. This was actually my first time I was trying out double exposures straight in the camera, so this is not edited at all. This image is straight out from the camera. But with that said, with this image, I wanted to convey the feeling of interiority. Winter is not something that is just around us, but it is also inside of us. Double exposure was intentional, as I felt it would convey this in the best possible way. As I said earlier, for me, winter is a time to look inward. So in a way, it is the inner us looking away from the winter, not wanting to acknowledge its presence, hence it being called survival mode, so to speak. So I wanted to convey that we are in survival mode during winter, because that is what winter feels like to me. And then we get to this image, which shows the confinement and survival that I talked about in the previous image. The tall grass cuts through the image, which partially hides Hanna behind it. And she is also standing sideways here, looking away with only one eye visible. And the image is more compressed and there are more shades of gray in the image. The aim here was to make the image convey the feeling of compression in the space. And this was also taken with one of my vintage Super Takumar lenses, which add a certain kind of a character to the image as well, while being sharp, even though this was shot wide open. I think, yeah, I shot this one wide open, so it's not extremely sharp on the edges, because vintage lenses usually are not, but still, that also gives it this dreamy-like feeling, since the lens doesn't render extremely sharp images like modern lenses do. So, and I felt that fit the image here really well. And then we have this fourth and last image that I will be talking about on this video. This was one of the last images that we took that day, I think, if not last even. And there was a shoreline next to the ice where I wanted to specifically to take photos that framed Hanna standing. And I wanted to add some foreground and background and framing into the image, and to make them more grounded and textural. And this texture was provided by the rocks on the foreground, as well as the trees and branches in the scene. Hanna is also not obscured in this image like she was in the previous one. So there is still this sort of a feeling of confinement, which is conveyed by the rather populated scene and framing on this image. But she is still standing sideways, looking off into the right side. And even if the frame feels more full, there is still room to breathe here. And I think some of that breathing room for me personally comes from the fact that this was shot on monochrome or black and white. I also have the color images available, that it still feels like there is more breathing room in monochrome since of the absence of color. There you have it. There wasn't really any problems during this photo shoot. I had a really good mood board for this photo shoot. I've been collecting inspiration images for this for a couple of years now. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a while, so there were no problems really. The only thing that was a problem somewhat was the cold, which it was a really cold day that day, and since we're in Vaasa, it's always windy, but we managed. We had warm clothing on. My fingers were feeling it after the photo shoot, since when you have to operate a camera, and I didn't have any thick gloves with me to do that, so, but we survived. That's it. I just wanted to go through these photos with you really quickly, since I've been wanting to do a video about this photo shoot for a while now, but I just couldn't figure out an angle. But this felt like the correct way to do it, to go through a couple of the pictures and my mindset behind the photo shoot and the pictures itself. So, thank you for tagging along, and I will see you in the next one.